Bear Butte is a geological laccolith feature located near Sturgis, South Dakota, United States, that was established as a state park in 1961. An important landmark and religious site for the Plains Indians tribes long before Europeans reached South Dakota. Bear Butte is called Mathó Pahá, or Bear Mountain, by the Lakota, or Sioux.To the Cheyenne. It is known as Noahȧ-vose and Náhkȯhe-vose, and is the place where Mathó imparted to sweet medicine, a Cheyenne prophet, the knowledge from which the Cheyenne derive the religious, political, social, and economic customs. The mountain is sacred to many indigenous peoples, who make pilgrimages to leave prayer cloths and tobacco bundles tied to the branches of the trees along the mountain's flanks. Other offerings are often left at the top of the mountain. The site is associated with various religious ceremonies throughout the year. The mountain is a place of prayer, meditation, and peace. The park includes a campsite south of South Dakota Highway 34 where horseback riding, fishing, and boating are permitted. On the summit side of Highway 34, a moderately sized herd of buffalo roams the base of the mountain. An education center and a summit trail are available. Official park policy advises visitors to Bear Butte to respect worshippers and to leave religious offerings undisturbed. Park fees are waived for those undertaking religious activities. In 2007, Government rounds of South Dakota announced a proposal to use state, federal and private money to buy a perpetual easement in order to prevent commercial and residential development of some land on the western side of Bear Butte. This would cost more than $1 million, but would prevent development of nuisance businesses on ranch land near the mountain on the northern edge of the Black Hills. Geological history. Bear Butte is not strictly a butte, but a laccolith, an intrusive body of igneous rock, uplifting the earlier sedimentary layers, which have since largely eroded away. This is the result of the forcible entry of magma into cooler crustal rock in the Black Hills area during the Eocene epoch. In this, Bear Butte shares a similar geological history with other formations in the region, including the Black Hills, Devil's Tower, the Missouri Buttes, and some parts of the Rocky Mountains. It is possible that when the intrusion was emplaced, some magma may have breached the surface, forming a volcano. However, it would have eroded away long ago. The peak rises 1,253.5 feet above the surrounding plain and is 4,426 feet above sea level. Modern history. Human artifacts have been found on and near Bear Butte that date back 10,000 years, indicating a long and continuous interest in the mountain. The Cheyenne and Lakota people have maintained a spiritual interest in Bear Butte from their earliest recorded history. Notable visitors like Red Cloud, Crazy Horse, and Sitting Bull made pilgrimages to the site. In 1857, a council of many Indian nations gathered at Bear Butte to discuss the growing presence of white settlers in the Black Hills. Violating a treaty of 1868, George Armstrong Custer led an expedition to the Black Hills region in 1874, and according to custom he camped near Bear Butte. Custer verified the rumors of gold in the Black Hills, and Bear Butte then served as an easily identifiable landmark for the rush of invading prospectors and settlers into the region. Indian reaction to the illegal movements of whites into the area was intense and hostile. Ultimately, the government reneged on its treaty obligations regarding the Black Hills and instead embarked on a program to confine all northern Plains tribes to reservations. Ezra Bovey homesteaded on the southern slopes of the mountain, and by the time of World War II, he and his family were the legal owners of the site. In the spring of 1945, the Northern Cheyenne received permission from Bovey to hold a ceremony ceremony at Bear Butte to pray for the end of World War II. The Cheyenne found that the Bove family welcomed their interest in the mountain, and over the years the Boves continued to encourage native religious ceremonies. By the mid-1950s, Ezra Bove was attempting to stir up interest in making Bear Butte a national park. After his death, his family continued the effort. When federal interest in the project waned, the state government in Pierre took action, and Bear Butte became a state park in 1961 and was registered as a National Historic Landmark in 1965. Frank Foolscrow, the Lakota ceremonial chief, made pilgrimages to Bear Butte throughout his lifetime. Foolscrow taught racial harmony not just between whites and Indians, but among all the peoples of the world. He believed the Lakota should never sell the Black Hills. A bust and plaque in front of the Education Center at Bear Butte State Park honor Foolscrow's efforts. Frank Foolscrow was the plaintiff in one of the most prominent attempts by Native Americans to gain access to sacred lands under the American Indian Religious Freedom Act of 1978. The case Foolscrow v. Gullett related to the introduction in 1982 of limits on when and for how long Lakota and Cheyenne religious ceremonies could take place on the bluff. The Indian Americans argued that both the American Indian Religious Freedom Act of 1978 and the First Amendment protected the right to unlimited access to the bluff. They also wanted the bluff to remain untouched as it was sacred. The plaintiffs lost their case on both the district and appellate level and were denied a hearing by the Supreme Court. In 2011, the National Trust for Historic Preservation included Bear Butte on its list of the 11 most endangered places.